What if I told you a band fired its founder and creative core right as they're about to break big? They had the songs, the look, and the record deal, but they kicked out the one guy holding it all together. Then they spent the next 3 decades in a constant state of falling apart and desperately trying to glue themselves back together again. Here's how Bonfire became rock and roll's greatest story of self-sabotage.
Like, subscribe. Thank you.
So let's go back to Germany. There's this group of guys, and they have a band called Kakumen. It's 1972. They're grinding it out, playing gigs, trying to make a name for themselves. The main guys are a guitarist named Hans Ziller and a singer named Claus Lessmann. And they're the heart of the band. For years, they toil away, releasing a few records that nobody really hears outside the local scene. They know they have something, but that band name is just not cutting it. Sounds like a medical condition. So in 1986, they decide to rebrand. They need something powerful, something memorable. And so they land on the name Bonfire. And just like that, everything changes. They sign a worldwide deal and drop their debut album, Don't Touch the Light. And it's a hit, not a massive, world-conquering hit, but it gets them noticed. The songs are catchy, anthemic, pure 80s hard rock. They're getting airplay and touring, and things are finally happening. They're on the map. So they head back into the studio to record the follow-up, and this is where the first crack appears. During the recording sessions for what will become their album Fireworks, they fire their drummer, Dominic Holzhorst, over musical differences. It's a pretty standard band move, no big deal on the surface. They bring in a session guy, Ken Mary, from the American band Fifth Angel, to finish the album. Fireworks comes out in '87, and it's even bigger than the debut. Songs like You Make Me Feel are all over the radio. They're on the verge of breaking into the big leagues, especially in North America. So the band is on a roll, but the machine is already starting to rattle. They find a new full-time drummer, Edgar Patrick, and they head out on the Fireworks tour in 1988. But then another problem. Their other guitar player, Horst Meyerthorn, has to quit. He's got severe rheumatism, and it becomes so crippling he cannot even play guitar on stage anymore. And that was a tough blow, losing a founding member, but they soldier on. They recruit a guy named Angel Slifer to take his place and finish the tour. But so far, these are just the normal bumps in the road for a rock band. Unfortunate, but manageable. The real disaster was just around the corner. So after the tour wraps, they settle down to write the next album. This is supposed to be the one that launches them into superstardom. But behind the scenes, things are getting tense. The founder, the main songwriter, the guy who started the whole thing, Hans Ziller, is starting to have problems with the record company and the band's management as well. And part of it is because he has a family and his commitments at home are pulling his focus away from the band, at least in the eyes of the suits. And the pressure is on. The label wants 110% dedication. They see Ziller's family life as this distraction or a liability. So instead of working it out, the management and the rest of the band make a decision, a brutal one. In June of 1989, they fire Hans Ziller from his own band. Just let that one sink in. The guy who created Bonfire, who wrote the songs that got them their deal, was kicked to the curb right when they were on the brink of making it huge. And the official reason was that his quote-unquote focus wasn't on the band, but it was a cold, calculated business move. And it was a move that would haunt them forever. The craziest part? Ziller and the singer Claus Lessmann remained great friends through it all. It wasn't a personal betrayal between them, but it definitely was a corporate one. Ziller, now out of a job, immediately forms a new band called Easy Livin'. He asks his buddy Klaus to sing on the record. But the record company, the same one that just orchestrated his firing from Bonfire, steps in and says, oh, hell no. They forbid Lessmann from singing with Ziller, afraid it would confuse the Bonfire brand. So Ziller has to find another singer. And Bonfire carries on as a quartet, trying to pretend like they hadn't ripped out their own heart. The decision to fire Ziller immediately starts to fester. Lessmann is still in the band, but his partner in crime is gone. They release their fourth album, Knockout, and it's a total dud. The magic is just gone. Songwriting's not there, and fans can feel it. The band tries to break through in America, but it's just not happening. All that momentum they built up with the first 2 albums is completely gone. Lessmann, feeling disillusioned and frustrated, finally has enough. So on September 25th of 1992, he quits. And it's not a shock to the rest of the band. They all knew this was coming. But now they're in a real jam. No founder, no voice. So they scramble to find a replacement. And they find a talented singer named Michael Bormann who agrees to join. But now the band's in a state of limbo. Their record company, in a stunning display of hypocrisy, refuses to release any new album that doesn't have Claus Lessmann singing on it. So the album they recorded with Bormann gets shelved, It would later leak as a bootleg, a ghost of what could have been. On top of all this, the musical landscape's changing. The early 90s. Grunge has arrived, and bands like Bonfire are seen as dinosaurs. The writing is on the wall. They play one last show on July 29, 1994, and then without any official announcement, they just stop. For all intents and purposes, Bonfire is dead. But here's the thing about Bonfire. It never really stays dead. While the band is on ice, Ziller and Lessmann are still friends. They start working on this project together called Lessmann-Ziller. And in 95, it evolves into a new band called X, that's EX, which even includes some of the old Bonfire guys. But they know that to get their fans back, to really make a comeback, they need that name. They need Bonfire. So they get the rights back. And in 1996, Bonfire is officially reborn with the two guys who started it all back at the helm. And for a while, it works. They tour, they release new albums, they manage to carve out a niche for themselves, especially in Europe, where their brand of melodic hard rock still has this dedicated following. For almost 20 years, this version of Bonfire, led by Ziller and Lessmann, endures. They weather the changing trends of the music industry and keep that flame alive. Seems like they finally found stability. But this is Bonfire, and stability is a four-letter word. Not really, but in that world. So in early 2015, the bombshell drops. An email goes out to the fans. A falling out has occurred again between Ziller and Lessmann. After all those years, after surviving the firing, the breakup, the reunion, the two friends and founders have split for good. The statement says Lessmann no longer has the desire to continue. Two other members quit along with him. Total implosion. But Ziller, the guy who was once fired from his own band, refuses to let it die. He decides to carry on. He already has another band on the side, the revival of his old project, Easy Livin', with an American singer named David Reece, who once fronted Accept. So Ziller merges the two, takes the singer and bassist player from Easy Livin', and keeps his drummer and calls it the new Bonfire. The fans, well, they're stunned. A Bonfire without Claus Lessmann? For many, it's just unthinkable. His voice is Bonfire, but Ziller pushes forward. They released an album with Reece called Glorious in 2015, followed by another one, Pearls, in 2016. But the curse of Bonfire strikes again. In July 2016, the band announces they have split with David Reece. The reason? Personal and professional differences that were irreconcilable. Say that with me. Irreconcilable. There we go. It's the same old story. Another lineup, another collapse. In a bizarre twist, they rehire Michael Bormann, the same singer who replaced Lessmann back in the 90s, only to have his album shelved. But that reunion doesn't even last long enough to record anything. It's just another chapter in the revolving door saga. The band finds yet another singer, Alex Stahl, and continues to tour and record. But the drama's never far away. In 2018, they plan an ambitious tour called Bonfire and Friends, featuring guest vocalists from other famous 80s bands like Joe Turner from Rainbow and Deep Purple. It's supposed to be a celebration of classic rock, and turns into a complete disaster. First, Joe Turner quits just a few shows in, claiming the promoters weren't paying him. Then it comes out that another advertised guest, the singer from UFO, was never even booked. The promotion company, which was set up specifically for this tour, goes bankrupt, leaving ticket holders with no refunds. The tour collapses in a mess of lawsuits and broken promises. It's a financial and PR nightmare, another self-inflicted wound. And that's the story of Bonfire, a band that has seen the world at its feet and threw it all away with one terrible decision. They canned their founder, spent the next 3 decades paying the price, stuck in a never-ending cycle of breakups or reunions, lineup changes. Just shows how egos and bad management and industry politics can destroy a band from the inside out. Of course, we've heard that story play over and over again. They had the songs and the talent, but could never escape that chaos that they created for themselves. It was a band, but it was also pretty much a soap opera set to a hard rock soundtrack, and you just couldn't look away from the train wreck. They were so close to the top, but they just kept finding new ways to shoot themselves in the foot over and over again.